The glory days of steam might be behind us, but steam trains will always cause people to stop and stare. As technology has gotten better, trains have become more effective and environmentally friendly. But the beauty of steam, the smell, the sound, the moving parts, have a special place in our heart. It's a hard, dirty job, but still, there are a few passionate enthusiasts keeping the traditions alive for everyone, young and old, to see.
When I come in, these levers are down, so one of the first things you do is I don't know if you, well, if you can you see the water bubbling around there? Can you see it just literally bubbling up and down?
Yep.
That's the actual water level in the boiler. And the first thing I need to do is to make sure that there's enough water in the boiler, because what you don't do is light a fire with no water in the boiler, which is dangerous. So there's all the ash from the fire yesterday, so I've now got to clean that out, okay, which is what I'm going to do straight away. Jose, yeah? Just going in the firebox. Wanting to drive the sort of locomotive that we've been on today has got much more appeal, I think, to the just the whole thrill of being up on the footplate with this roaring fire and the sound of the engine. Diesel engines are just sort of clinically efficient and they don't have the same appeal. Just clears all the stuff off the sides. See the way all the ash is gone now, because can you see if I do that rock, see? Right, that's a great clean. Because there's some pressure on the gauge, this thing called the blower will operate, and by opening the blower a little bit, that's sucking all that dust up the chimney so that it doesn't come into the cab. Just soaking them in the kerosene just so that they've soaked up, because obviously what I'm going to do in a bit is to light those up. So every fireman does it differently, but what I do is I get one of the pieces of wood. There's always some convenient nails there to hook it onto. And then drop that down there, and then just keep going. I'm very cautious now, because about 6 months ago one of the nails in the end of the wood went right into my finger. It's in on one side and came out on the other. When the coal starts to burn, it starts to crackle, and you can hear it now crackling, so I know that the coal is actually beginning to light. Because there are sometimes when the fire will, in the first quarter of an hour will go out because the coal doesn't pick up.
On the driver today, Basically, morning prep is essentially to monitor what's going on with the fire and everything via the firemen. They're doing it, but I'm just sort of overviewing, and then to actually go around, check mechanically what's going on with the engine and to oil it thoroughly. So it's a multi-aspect job. The actual side that I have to do, the lubrication that I have to do, doesn't amount to too much, but it's a lot of basic mechanical observations, making sure everything looks sound, that it doesn't look like there's any failures looming, and to make sure the reliability of the engine is as good as it can be for the day.
For example, on a much older engine, like the poor old driver would have to visit well over 100 different locations on the locomotive to put oil in. This was 92212 and 92220, which was 8 engines further down the line, was the last steam engine ever made. So this is 8 short of that final number. This bunch here turn up from time to time, called the cleaning gang. The clue is in the name.
What we're doing is just basically cleaning the locomotives to make it good for the customers, and also to help the engine crew see if there's any faults in the locomotive. Just cleaned a mixture of kerosene and lubrication oil. Kerosene breaks up down the dirt in the engine oil, just puts a protective film on the locomotives.
Right, well, I've gone round, done my inspections, done my oiling, and essentially next I go into the office and I do a report card on the loco.
You'll find that most people think that the tender is just for coal. I mean, everybody knows that the fireman puts coal on the fire, but what people tend to forget is how much water you get through in a day. I mean, we'll get through several thousand gallons of water in the day, and the water is all stored in the tender, so people assume it's just full of coal, but in actual fact it's a big water tank with some coal on the top. But when we operate along the full length of the line, we'd get through about 2.5 tons of coal in the day, so just under so about 3/4 of a ton for each round trip, but probably also 6,000 or 7,000 gallons of water. I didn't start doing this until I'd retired. I was a school teacher all my career, so for about 36 years I was a teacher. I think I inherited an enthusiasm for steam engines from my father. He was a real enthusiast for steam trains, knew a lot about them. But the bottom line is I enjoy it hugely. One of the things you'll notice is that we've got no facility to turn the engine. We've got no turntable, so that when we get to the top of the hill at Medstead, we bring the engine round the train and hitch up on the other end. But when we go back down the hill, we go effectively backwards, tender first.
So it's taken me about 14 years, but I've got myself worked my way up to driver, so I'm now driving these things for a hobby. It's great. Certainly it's an interesting force to understand, steam. I know there's sort of doubts on their relevance these days, but very much a part of our heritage.
We had our first one.
We had a good one, didn't we? Our first one, and we came off and we had a little look at the train being filled with water, and then all the steam coming out, didn't we?
I think from an early age you're just captivated by the sound, the smell, just the fact that it feels, as machines go, it feels like it's a living thing rather than just an inanimate object.
Because these things are old, you know, and they take a lot of work to keep going. And I think it's also great skills that very often we don't, a lot of people today don't have in the same way that they did 100 years ago.
And in those days, little boys wanted to be engine drivers. At the driver's discretion, I'm allowed to drive. That's how you learn.
This is a signalman at Ropley. How you doing? Good. I've got the late engine offered coming up from Alresford, and the last train is still running round at Medstead. So I'm probably going to bring them into this platform if you're alright with that. Well, I started here, it was a birthday present actually. My wife and the two girls had booked up for Sunday lunch on the train. We stopped just out here actually when it was the old signal box, and I was looking into the signal box and I thought I quite fancy doing that. So I applied as a volunteer and came down and worked on the platform, and worked my way up from the platform into the signal boxes. So I've been here about 12, 15 years now, I suppose.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you've had a good journey with us, and please remember to take all your belongings with you. Finally, can I please remind you not to open any of the doors until the train has come to a complete stop at the platform. The first thing we did when we came on was get cold. Immediately after that we dropped the ash out of the ash pan down into the pit, and then now we've stopped completely. I washed the floor, I've turned the blower off, and I'm now trying to get the water level right up here. And as the injector is going, so the pressure is falling. The best thing is that it would just, in the next 8 or 9 hours, just slowly cool down. So tomorrow morning when the guys come on duty, the engine will still be hot, but the fire will be completely out. So just like I did this morning, they'll just clean the ash out and start a new fire. During the course of the night, as it cools down, that water level will drop by about 2 inches. And so the chaps in the morning should come in to the water about halfway up. The worst thing I can do for them is to leave too little water in, so that when they come back in the morning, there's not enough water. So that's the engine completely shut down. The roof is closed, all the windows are closed, the blower is off, the pressure is down, the water is up to the top, so it's now time for a beer.